It hits 70 degrees in late April, and every angler in Naperville has the exact same thought. It's topwater time. You step outside in a t-shirt, but that comfortable air temperature is lying to you about what's actually happening below the surface. Look at this table breaking down the environmental split. While you're enjoying the 70-degree promise on land, the aquatic reality is that the water is still hovering around 50 degrees. Down there, the bass are sluggish, hugging the bottom and conserving energy. If you tie on a frog and cast into the main lake like it's mid-July, you will get 0 bites, burn out your shoulder, and waste your Saturday. You cannot force a summer bite in early spring. Instead, you have to hunt for highly specific microclimates where the water has artificially warmed up. To shift the odds in your favor, you need one specific setup: shallow water that has baked in the sun, ideally with the first green patches of weeds or lily pads starting to sprout. But those shallows don't stay warm all day. They require a strict, continuous dose of sunlight to reach a temperature where a bass will actually chase a surface lure. This chart shows spring topwater strike probability mapped against time of day. Usually, early morning is best, but here the line remains completely flat until it spikes dramatically between 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. That late afternoon window is your strike zone. You also need absolutely calm weather conditions. A heavy wind will immediately mix that thin, warm surface layer with the freezing water underneath, destroying the setup. Time of day and wind function as absolute filters. Casting a frog outside of a calm late afternoon window mathematically eliminates your chance of a strike. Your highest probability starting points are shallow, stocked suburban retention ponds, like May Watts. Because these ponds are small and lack deep water, they absorb heat rapidly. They will reach that critical active feeding temperature weeks before the main rivers or deep reservoirs. Once you're there, aim specifically for the early lily pad growth and the dead, matted shoreline weeds that block the wind. The trade-off here is straightforward. You are maximizing your total number of bites, but you are largely sacrificing your chance at a 5-pound trophy-sized bass. Work the lure slowly. Cast it out, let the splash rings disappear, give it a twitch, and let it sit. That agonizingly long pause is when a hesitant spring bass will finally commit. Because of their massive thermal advantage, these shallow ponds offer the highest return on investment if you only have a few hours to fish after work. If you want to target moving water, look to the main and west branches of the DuPage River. Notice the fast, cold main current on the outside edge of this river bend. Avoid it entirely. Focus strictly on the highlighted zones, the stagnant, warming slack water on inside curves, natural eddies, or calm pockets trapped behind fallen trees. If you launch a topwater lure into the main current during April, the water is simply too cold and moving too fast. You are wasting your casts. The upside to isolating these slack pockets is variety. The DuPage holds healthy populations of both smallmouth and largemouth bass, and they will both use these calm breaks to hunt. River topwater in the spring requires a sniper's mentality. You aren't blindly covering miles of bank. You are hunting for specific architectural features that block the cold current. Your final option involves targeting deep, clear water environments, like the Riverwalk Quarry or Deep Quarry Lake. High water clarity and sparse vegetation define these quarries, creating a scenario where bass can inspect your lure from 10 feet away. To compensate, you have to shift your tactics. Tie on natural green and brown frog patterns and extend your pauses. You are accepting a drastically lower volume of bites here, but in exchange, you gain access to a much larger, healthier size class of fish. If you spend 30 minutes working a frog across a shallow quarry flat and get 0 responses, you need to treat that as diagnostic data. Put the frog down. Immediately switch to a subsurface moving bait, like a buzzbait or a spinnerbait, to test if the fish are active lower in the water column. Keep throwing that spinnerbait to check the area. You only tie the frog back on once subsurface activity proves the bass are actively feeding. Rotating your lures is essential. If you blindly stick to the topwater bite when the fish are hesitant, you will waste your narrow afternoon window. This chart maps expected catch volume against patience and skill. Action-seeking weekend anglers belong top left. Target retention ponds between 2 and 6 p.m. Technical purists grinding for a trophy map bottom right. Work clear quarries, waiting for that one massive blow-up. Frustration happens when you ignore these environments. You will fail if you walk up to a clear, cold quarry expecting high volume, or if you fish a neighborhood pond expecting a state record. Success early in the season relies entirely on taking an honest look at your own tolerance for risk versus your desire for consistent action. Even with flawless locational planning, absolute environmental deal breakers will shut this entire system down. High sustained winds will instantly ruin the bite. The chop mixes that delicate, warm surface microclimate with the freezing water below, neutralizing the temperature advantage. Heavy, overcast cloud cover is just as bad. Without direct sunlight, the shallon slats never achieve that critical solar heating effect. If you encounter either of these conditions, you have to swallow your pride, bench the frog, and switch entirely to subsurface tactics. Forcing an April topwater bite requires extreme locational discipline. Ultimately, knowing exactly when not to throw the lure is your most valuable asset.